Well, hello, and welcome to the first in a series of, I hope, interesting videos blending Strategy's wonderful technology, including its universal semantic graph, and social and demographic data about the country where I live, the United Kingdom. So, I'm ready, or almost ready. Hang on a minute. I just need to put on my hat of truth. Make sure the orange star is aligned. So, I'm ready. Are you? Hello, so we're going to talk about disability in this video. So I've cheated a bit. I've asked my friend Google to give us some definitions. Okay, so the first question you need to ask is, what does disability mean in the UK? And I'm just going to read what it says on the screen. In the UK, a disability is legally defined under the Equality Act 2010 as a physical or mental impairment that has a substantial and long-term adverse effect on a person's ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. Okay, so that's the definition of disability. The legal definition of it is important because it does govern what type of help you will get from the UK government. So the next thing we're going to look at disability benefits in the UK. So a number of benefits are available and financial support. So we're just going to go through these. Personal independent payment, disability living allowance, attendance allowance, employment support allowance, universal credit, and adult disability payment for Scotland. Other support is available. Now, that sounds very generous. However, you will not get all of these benefits. Some of them are being replaced by others, and the criteria for being eligible are quite byzantine, according to people who are reporting on that. Okay. Now, the big thing at the moment, and it changes every day, is that our government is proposing changes to the disability benefit system. So let's have a quick look at the other tab there. Primarily, that will focus on personal independent payments and its interaction with universal credit. And you can look in Google yourself. I'm not going to read all of it, but there are a number of changes, and it's causing quite a stir. So here are the concerns. So this will be difficult for people with fluctuating conditions, and it's estimated that the impact on many people is going to be to push them into poverty. So obviously there's a big revolt. A lot of MPs, Labour MPs, are revolting against the changes, and the government is now beginning to consider they might have a point. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into politics, but the changes are extremely unpopular. Okay. Now we've set the scene. We're going to look at some data. Here we are looking at Strategy's library with a dashboard that I've created by blending two sets of data. Okay, so the first set comes from the Department of Work and Pensions, God rest their soul, who is a ministry of the UK that looks after, surprisingly, work and pensions. So they are the ones who run all the benefit system. Okay, so the other data is the census data that was taken in 2021. For the DWP data, what I have is all the different benefits, the population by local authority. We spoke about local authorities earlier on, and the percentage of that population that is claiming one of the benefits that, again, we discussed when we look at the disability benefits in the UK. Okay, that map here shows us the UK in all its glory. So I have data for the entirety of the UK, including Scotland, for the benefits claimed. However, I don't have data for Scotland when it comes to the census data. So sorry, Scotland, we're going to zoom up on England, and we'll have to look at Scotland at another time. So what this shows us is the local authorities of the United Kingdom of England, and the colour indicates the percentage of the population that is claiming a benefit. A dark green indicates a low percentage of the population, whereas a red indicates a high percentage of the population. And we can see immediately that there's a bit of a pattern there. So we've got the south of England and the Midlands, where a number of people are not claiming few benefits. Okay, and then we've got areas which are like the valleys in Wales, North Wales, Liverpool. We'll just scroll up a little bit, and we can see Newcastle, Hartlepool. Now, these are old industrialized or marginal areas in the UK, and they tend to correspond also to areas which are swing areas for going between Conservative or Labour MPs. Okay, what can we see there? So if we look at, let's say, for instance, tendering, we can see that there's about 16% of the population that is claiming a disability benefit, and we have 11,000 people, sorry, claiming personal independence payments. Okay, let's look at the valleys. The valleys in Wales used to have a very big mining industry, and all the mines have been closed over the years. And the valleys are sort of like riddled with social and poverty problems. And we can see there that the percentage of the population claiming a disability benefit is actually quite high. We can do a bit more than this. We can click on an area, and this will then come up with a window that will tell us the age distribution of people in the census who have declared a disability. Now, that's not the same number as the people actually claiming a benefit. In fact, we'll find that there's a big difference between the percentage of people claiming a benefit and the percentage of people declaring a disability. So there's a lot of disability that is actually recognized by the Department of Work and Pensions because they don't pay benefits for it. So people are not claiming benefits, but they do consider themselves disabled in one way. So that's quite interesting on its own. So the other thing that we'll note is that we have this curve where obviously the percentage of people who are disabled by age group increases over time. It tends to plateau for people of working age, and obviously starts increasing rapidly as people reach retirement and into old age. Okay, so that was tendering. If we have a look at another area, let's have a look at this one there, Denbighshire. We see again a similar pattern, but what we start noticing, if we click on other areas, is that we start noticing a bulge in the 20 to 24 age bracket. Now that's interesting, because why would that particular cohort of people feel more feel, it's not a question of feeling, declare themselves disabled more often than any other adjacent age group? And what I noticed also is that that pattern appears pretty much everywhere you look. This prompted me to do a tiny bit of data science. So what I did is I look at this one, for instance. Look, so what I did is I exported the data and I processed it in Python using a Python library for machine learning, and I asked it to cluster my local authorities based on the shape of the age curve. So that gives you a number of clusters up here. Let's look at cluster 0. The idea there is that all these areas have an age curve, an age disability curve, that tends to have the same shape. And we can see the shapes are quite similar. So if we look at cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, and cluster 4, these are all have slightly similar age curves. So that was the clustering, and that worked quite well actually. So I was managed to import that result back into MicroStrategy and connect it to my data set. Right. Next, what we can do is investigate that age thing a bit closer. Okay, so what I've done is I've created an age analysis graph, and it's it's not the most prettiest dashboard in the world, but what that shows us really is those different curves, those age curves by cluster. And we can see, for instance, that cluster 2 has a quite pronounced bulge, and in ages 20 to 24. Now, it's difficult to understand why that is. I have theories, but they're not theories that are safe to repeat. I'll be, if you're interested, you can come up to me and tell me, hey, Matthew, that's basically because of this. Now, what's really interesting now is if we look at the difference between the females that declare a disability and the males that declare a disability in the census. So let's click on that and change the metric. And there what we have is effectively we have fewer females than males that are declared as having a disability in the census, okay, up until ages 10 to 14. But look what happens when we switch over to the other age brackets with, again, that spike in the 20 to 24 age bracket. Suddenly, the number of females that declare a disability is much higher than the number of males. Why is that? So that's what the data tells me. It's the census data. So, I mean, but probably open to interpretation. But I found that particular phenomenon quite interesting. And I did dig around in the data a bit just to verify to see if it wasn't lying. And no, it is correct. Couple of interesting things with this disability data. Yes. Let's switch back to the map because I want to show you something else. So this is using, pretty standard functions of strategy. We've got a dashboard, we've got maps, we use data science to actually cluster. And what we need to do now is show off and add a bit of artificial intelligence. So let's do that by clicking on Auto Answers. And what I've done is I've previously created some questions. So we don't want to upgrade now, thank you. Some questions. So the first question I'm going to ask, there you go. Which local authority name has the highest percentage of population claiming a disability benefit? So we've got to wait for it to do its thing. Blaenau Gwent has the highest percentage of the population claiming disability benefit at 19.4%. Now, is it telling the truth? Let's go and find out. Whoops. So Blaenau Gwent, and yes, the percentage of population claiming a disability benefit is indeed 19.4%. Okay, so let's have the next question. Because people in business intelligence, they tend to like things like top fives or bottom fives. So let's do that question now. Which top five LA names, local authorities, have the highest number of personal independent payment claimants? And off we go. Zoom up the map a bit. Right, so now we're looking at personal independent payment claimants, which is the crux of the changes that the government are trying to bring in. And we can see that apart from County Durham, which is mostly rural, pretty much all the other areas that come back are big rural areas with big populations. So we've got Birmingham, Liverpool, Leeds, and Manchester. So that's where a large number of people are claiming the personal independence payment benefit, which is looking at being cut in the current parliament. Okay. So that's AI. So we've done it all. We've had a look at a map. We've looked at the difference between males and females, and we've run a little bit of artificial intelligence. Now, we could ask lots more questions, but we need to move on to something else now. Well, congratulations for making it this far. I think before I go, I'd just like to mention a couple of things. First of all, you look at the diagram on the left. I've managed to use pretty much all the features that are shown there. So I've used Gen AI, I've used machine learning, dashboards, data sources from lots of different areas. I've used Python, and obviously my environment is hosted on Strategy's cloud. So all of the one features in one go. And for the next video, I'd like to attempt to do the same exercise I've done with the disability data, but using Strategy's new product called Mosaic, which is really quite revolutionary. So let's see what happens. Anyway, thanks for listening. See you soon. Goodbye.